Welcome to the Timeless Marketing Podcast with Brian Kurtz, your connection to insights from some of the top direct response marketing minds on the planet.
Hey, it's Brian Kurtz here, host of the Timeless Marketing Podcast. Today's episode is a clip from one of the 2-hour calls inside Titan's Accelerator, my private mentorship program for direct response marketers. Before we get to that, I have one question for you. Do you have a marketing insurance policy? If you don't, you need one. And that's why I created Titan's Accelerator, which is one of the most giving communities and serves as the de facto board of advisors and marketing insurance policy for over 250 of the best and brightest direct response marketers, copywriters, media buyers, marketing agencies, senior executives, anyone in direct response marketing who is committed to growing and scaling their business. The bottom line, you don't have to grow your business alone. And you don't need to spend tens of thousands of dollars either. Titan's Accelerator is 1/10 of the price of most groups of its kind. I know because I hosted a group that was over $20,000 a year. If you want to see how Titan's Accelerator can help you grow and scale your specific business, go to briankurtz.net/help. That's BrianKurtz.net/help. And with a private membership, you'll receive access to the full presentation from today's episode, along with the Q&A and discussion that followed. As an added bonus, you'll receive access to a vault filled with many more private calls just like this one. Again, if you want to see if Titan's Accelerator is a fit for you with no obligation, go to briankurtz.net/help. That's BrianKurtz.net/help. And feel free to email me directly. I respond to every email with questions about this episode or just to say hi at brian@briankurtz.net. Now on to today's episode.
Okay, so Mike Agugliaro is one of my heroes. He is someone who, if there's such a thing as a relentless marketer who is not just a marketer, it's Mike. His work ethic is as intense and as high as anybody, as indicated by his early days in digging ditches in New Jersey in the winter. I love that picture. I don't know if you're going to show that today, Mike, but the picture of you and Rob digging ditches in New Jersey in the ice, which led to a $30 million business and an exit that was heralded by Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, unsolicited. He said, we went to a Robin Robbins mastermind, and we brought Kevin O'Leary in, and Mike was the star of that. We had 8 entrepreneurs around the table, and when Mike got up to take his picture with Kevin whispered in his ear, and I was the next one up so I could hear what he said. He said, "You're the real deal." That's Kevin O'Leary talking to Mike Agugliaro. And so I'm not saying Kevin O'Leary is the be-all, end-all here, but when it comes to creating value and it wasn't for stockholders, it was value in a company, to get the kind of multiple he got on a HVAC business with 30 trucks in New Jersey, that's why he was the star of the show. And you don't just get there by accident, believe me. And he knew that. And then he developed the masterminds for HVAC businesses, because they all wanted to be like Mike, not Michael Jordan, Mike Agugliaro. And so, I went to his events. They were amazing. They weren't just hero worship. He got them to worship each other because he got the teamwork and the way that he got these HVAC guys. And you wouldn't think it, but these are some amazing entrepreneurs who needed a little training to take them up 50%, 100%. And he did it time and again. And then he sold that company, and hopefully he'll talk about that. That was fraught with some landmines, but he got through that. And now he's got a new business called FuDog, which we'll talk about. So that's the timeline, the basic timeline. But there's so much more to this guy. I love him. He's amazing. We reconnect. We're always like connecting here and there. We send each other texts here and there. But the last connection, I saw that he rejoined Genius Network. When I told him that Joe had a new lover in the service space, and I said, Mike, you got to get in here because the guy that Joe's in love with is good, and he's got a bigger business than Mike, but bigger isn't necessarily better. And I know Mike is the best at this. So anyway, I hope that was a good enough introduction. I hope I did you justice, Mike, and just bestow wisdom on us.
Yeah. I'm excited to be here. Now you talk so good about me. My beautiful wife's going to have to knock me down later. So
that was the point.
Point. I figured that. I seen her looking at me there, and I'm excited to be here with you guys. Brian, you did a good job. I did have 165 trucks on the road for the service.
Oh no, because it was $30 million business, 165 trucks. Man, I will not make that mistake again.
Okay, thanks. I want to keep myself high and give my wife extra work later. I'm excited to be here with you guys to cover whatever you want. I think some important things we might want to navigate through is not just the success, because they're really all of you are successful in one way or another. It might be that you're just curious of how do you break some boundaries? How do you go from a couple team members to I had 200 employees in 2017. And then how do you go from a company you think that's your only future to exiting it, which I exited in 2017. And Brian knows because we're friends, so I share all the real details. But I mean, I signed my name and walked away the next day. I didn't stay on. I didn't, it was it. I just walked away. And then how do you build this thing that's very unique? And Brian, what's really cool is, who was I talking to the other day? I was talking to this young kid. Get this. Brian, he's in his 20s. He builds this company called Swag Up. Have you guys never heard of this company called Swag Up? Swag Up.
SWAGA?
Swag Up. Yep. SWAGUP. This young kid. And he builds this thing that takes care of swag boxes. So when we sign up people into our programs, and could share about our programs and stuff, they ship out the boxes for you.
Right.
And they're real professional. I mean, the kid in 5 years took it to 100 million. So you sit here and say to yourself, what is the land of possibility? And he mentioned on there, Brian, Seth Godin's book, Purple Cow.
Yes.
And then it clicked for me. I read that book whenever it came out. I guess it's probably over a decade ago. And I was like, holy crap. What I build Purple Cow type companies. Like CEO Warrior was a coaching company where, I coached 1,000 business owners. We had over 20,000 people, plumbers, electricians, HVAC guys, their employees. We did 35 3-day events a year. But nobody knew what the heck this is, CEO Warrior. Like, it was a Purple Cow brand. It was unique. It was different. And we built on it. And even what we have today, FuDog, right? Like Susan, if you're lucky enough, that it's these imperial lion, mystical lion dogs outside of maybe a temple or something. But most people don't even know that. So again, it's another unique brand that once it takes traction, everybody knows it, but it does take a little bit of heavy lifting. The coaching company did sell in 2020. And those of you that are in coaching, we did over 40 million in coaching sales in 2020. So I would say as for why Brian says I'm back in Genius for Tommy Mello, no, he can't compete. And I'll just remind him of that.
Yeah, please do. Please do. Because I can, because he doesn't know me and I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, no, I'll remind him about that. But then how do you take, and I'll go, Brian, wherever you want to go, is like, how do you scale? How do you business? How do you exit? Now, FuDog Group, what we do today is we're an organization that helps people create life, business, and wealth by design. And that's our core of what myself, my wife's business partner in that. We have Aaron, who you probably remember, Brian. He's a business partner in that. And we have multiple level groups. And then we also have a portfolio company that we've been building where we take equity in companies with $0 and we'll take up to 40% with the main focus to help them scale and exit in 3 to 5 years. In this formula,
are those service companies mainly?
No, because I still have some restrictions against service companies. So, we have a PR company, we have a moving company, so we have all random companies. I had to stay away from the service industry like the plague just to make sure I don't get in trouble. But Brian, this is for a lot of you to know, when you do follow a formula, now 64 companies in the last 36 months have sold their businesses that I have helped, over the last couple of years. I mean, 64 of them, and 90% of those people became decamillionaires, and everybody became a multi-millionaire. So, I think if you step back and say, and all you guys have wisdom, it's not the wisdom you have, it's how you're applying the wisdom. So let me pause there, and Brian, let's go wherever you want.
Let's go. Let's start with, so one of the things that you've done a lot of you made your events a reflection of your audience. So, I mean, you didn't do a fire walk, but you did the equivalent of a fire walk, because these guys, you did like sword fighting in the dark. I mean, it was like nutty shit, but it was not nutty to them because it was their life. So talk about turning whatever you're doing in anything, in marketing, into an experience, but also that you said it already about making it so perfect for your audience. I mean, you tailored everything to your audience. And then I want you to speak about that you started realizing when you talked to them and you heard what they were telling you back, that you created, like, you had the family thing where, you saw that these HVAC business owners, male or female, were like dying with being like overworked. They didn't have time for their families. They were on the verge of divorce, many cases. So you incorporated into your coaching, the coaching for the family. So how you listen to your audience, react to your audience, create the experience for your audience. Talk about that, because that's where you did make incredible strides that no one else makes within their groups.
Well, a lot of people in groups, they bring experiences that are fun. And because I have a martial arts background, is there any martial artists here? Type in.
Yeah, we have quite a few, I think.
Yeah. And if not, I guess if you watch Cobra Kai or something, that counts a little bit. And I wanted to make sure that it wasn't an experience, it was a transformation.
Right.
And our goal was, how do you create a transformation that shifts their thinking? And everything that I built was, how do I tap into that subconscious mind and collapse that thing and put a brand new pattern in there that they choose, without having to try to play some voodoo with NLP or hypnosis and stuff. How can we just create this environment? And then also, if you look at probably a lot of you, or any of you that have young kids, especially if you have young boys, right? They jump off the couch, they're riding a bicycle barefoot, just like all of us. And what I found out is that business owners were brave at one time and then they became unbrave. So how can I tap in with an experience? We did do firewalking and swords, and sometimes we would put a black bag over their head for leadership things and make them sit at a table with, blindfold on and mouse traps, and have people have to tell them how to navigate mouse traps, and as many creative ways that I could think of to, and not all of them have to be that intense. They just have to be that impactful. And Brian, we just did a cool one. If some of you might have done this before, but we just did an event. We do these exclusive events, and you definitely want to ask me about levels and events on here. But, we had an exercise as simple as we got these butterflies mailed to us. I mean, can you imagine they send you a real butterfly in a little box from California? And timing's important because it's ice packed, they're dormant. And just the power of talking about the transition of a caterpillar to turning into a pile of shit inside a cocoon, which through life, I don't know about you, I've been floored into darkness many times where you're just this pile of goo, and then you got to make a decision. Like, are you willing to actually grow a wing? Like, imagine what that would feel like today if you had to grow an effing wing out of your body. And then we gave them all these butterflies. We lived down the Jersey Shore. We went down to the Bay. And the transformation of them thinking through the process, opening it, and then this butterfly flying is such an emotional impact shift that they're never going to go back to where they are, and they're only going to fly to their future. When I build my events, does anybody do events? Type in events. If you do events, which every one of you do, because everything's an event. Eating dinner with your family is an event.
And everything, yeah, exactly.
Going to bed with your wife or partner is an event, right? Having a team meeting is an event. I always map out every meeting, training thing we do on what I call the transformation timeline. How is it going to start? What's the emotional states they're in? When we're 5 minutes in, what's the emotional states I want them to be in? And by time the end, what is the transformation? And I did this if I'm trying to solve a conversion issue, a marketing issue, a sales, whatever it is. And I don't think people stop a minute and realize that that transformation has to happen. But I'll say our downfall was we were making people rich and dead and rich and divorced. And that was never my wife and I theory. I mean, my wife and I were doing free firewalks at our house 20 years ago. We'd invite people, 50 people in our little home. We'd pay for food and do an experience just to change lives. And here I am making people scale companies from 1 million to 10 million in 24 months. And then I'm like, oh, I'm so excited for you. How's your wife doing? Oh, I got rid of that bitch. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this wasn't part of the plan.
Right.
And then they're getting diabetes, and then they're 100 pounds overweight. So then I said, we got to fix this, because it's never if the focus is just to make money, that's short-lived fun, and you can make money lots of ways. We wanted to impact that world that we created. So we started bringing that in, like, hey, we did relationships events. And Brian, as soon as we started to fix the relationships, we found out, my wife and I were looking at the people, and now they're coming to us, they're kids. They don't know how to relate to the kids, the teenagers, and the kids hate them. They don't know if they love the kids. So then we did a teenage event. If I was to shorten this and say, do any of you do partnerships or anything? Type in partnerships, you take, Brian, we won't even do a deal today with a company unless that owner will invest in some form of personal growth for themselves, either with us or somebody else. I won't even do a deal, because the worst thing is to get 3 years and you're ready to exit a $40 million company, and the guy comes to you and goes, oh, I'm divorcing or I'm sick. And it could have been, maybe not all of them are preventable, but man, you could do a lot of preventative stuff there. So type in the chat bar real quick. What is something that's either resonating or you're taking away, or an action item? Because I don't want this to just be social entertainment. I'm known for action and followed by some intensity. So I want to make sure you're leaving with something you're going to do, and not just a bunch of, great stories that you say, oh, that was fun.
Yeah. Talk about, some people are saying everything is an event, emotional state, the transformation, it's sort of like the difference between what Joe Poller says, there's between a thought leader and a results leader, and you're truly a results leader. So talk about how, because you still had to, even with the firewalks, even with the sword fighting, even with the family stuff that you put in, you still had time to have me and Jay Abraham, and you still had time for like marketing. And so because we were talking at the beginning of this call, I don't know if you were on, I think Jennifer was on. We were talking about the Venn diagram of marketing and personal development and how that shared area is getting wider and wider more than ever before. And maybe it's just one circle for you. So and in your case, it might be, and the fact that FuDog is probably, and I want you to talk the details about that before we let you go as well. But I think that starts in the personal development area, whereas CEO Warrior started with go from $1 million to 10 million in your HVAC business more than it was personal development. But you knew that they were coming for the information and they were going to stay for the inspiration, and you were going to set all of that up. So talk about how you sold the events and the inspirational stuff and the personal development stuff within an environment of people just trying to make more money. Because Richard Rossi said to me that first day when he said, "Oh, Brian, you're going to do a mastermind? Keep in mind, people come to a mastermind, and I know you're not a mastermind, so mine's not a mastermind either, but whatever group you have," he said, people are coming to make more money. That's what they think. Well, that's what they think they're coming for. But if they're going to spend money, they want to make money. And so it's a simple, we know that it's not that simple. So how do you keep it complicated and still keep it simple?
Yeah.
You're going on this road of personal development every step of the way, as they are in this group. I don't know if you were on when I talked about, we're getting speakers now on neurology, on imposter syndrome, on have someone coming in on value-based stuff, not marketers, and it's supposed to be a marketing group. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, the marketing side, if you do that, it's emotionally moving people from where they're at to where you want them to go with the highest level of integrity, right? And, personal growth is not a thing, it's the thing, but it's not the sexy thing. And everybody's here, they don't even realize it, Brian. Everybody's in your group, and you're in a great group here. Everybody's in here because they are unconsciously trying to solve some kind of shame, guilt, or trauma. You really, because if you didn't have those things, you would probably be doing something completely different now in a completely different way. And that's what we figured out. Brian, it was our secret sauce. Like, how do you get so many people to scale companies so fast? And in the beginning, I didn't realize what we were doing. We gave them the best marketing. I just shared something the other day, like, people are trying to recruit and they can't get good people. And me, I'm pretty blunt. So I'm like, no, it's not that you can't recruit. You just suck at it. And then I'm like, you look at their recruiting ads and they don't even talk to the emotions of the people looking to leave one company and come to the other.
Okay.
So the personal growth side is, everything, and you guys know this, everything that's ever happened in your life, every feel, every touch, every see, everything has created this computer software in your mind. And people don't realize, they think if they just think different, it is different. That's the farthest, you have to believe it to achieve it. It's total bullshit. You can believe it all you want. Your believing is going and fighting against the program in your mind. When I was a kid, I picked up, like a nickel or dime off the ground, and I was really excited and told my mom, look, I found this. And she was, "Oh, that's very good, Michael. Now go wash your hands because money's dirty." Yeah. Now, you think that just went away in my mind? Like all of a sudden, it's not an embedded command that keeps me thinking? Of course it was. Just like some of you probably have young kids, and if they count their birthday money, you're like, go wash your hands. So you've trained them that it's dirty. And then maybe you had grandparents that were like, they didn't have everything they needed, but the Rockefellers did. So money's the root of all evil. And, the upper class is the bad class. And even though you're saying to yourself, "Oh, I'm not sure if I don't think that way today." Okay. It's not about thinking that way. It's about the reflection of what happened in the past. And it became apparent early that if I don't change that part of how they see, it's like going back to the future. When you change it, it changes everything forward. And Brian, in some trainings we do today, I could timeline and tell you, show me everything on your that you look at as an upside in your life, and everything you think was a downside as far as you can remember. Started a company and then lost a bunch of money, had a girlfriend and then she cheated on me. I could look at that timeline in minutes, go, I could guess your level of success, of whatever success you want, health, relationship, wealth. Why? Because you could easily see the imbalance within the timeline of people. Now, how do you scale a company? Well, you bring personal growth in the company. Right now, at this state of the union, with what we would call probably a silent recession, which is for some of you the greatest time in history for more wealth to be created, is already started. It's probably the new industrial age, but the reality is most people are not going to see it. The amount of investment you need to do in your people on personal growth will come through in the next 3 to 5 years on the results of that company and the value of that company. Why does somebody come in and pay, higher multiples than ever for a company? Because there's a secret sauce in that company that no one else has figured out, and they want to take it and bring it to their other portfolios, and they see it as a self-scaling entity. And when you teach them the philosophy of understanding, change the people, change everything. That's all we did in every company too. So it wasn't just who we coached. Even today, our company, like from 3 years ago, creating an event called Seekers of Power, which nobody knew, and a company called FuDog Group, which through the airport has become brilliant, Brian, because everybody goes, what's FuDog? In the beginning, the marketers were telling me, that's a stupid name. Nobody will know what it is. And okay. And then I went to the airport and someone said, what's a FuDog? And I explained it. And I went, this is the greatest name on planet Earth.
Yeah, it gets into a conversation. I think people and marketing, they always say, make sure that if you got to name the game to own the game. Yeah. And then the name should tell you something about the business. Not always.
Yeah. And personal reading, like Think and Grow Rich. Like when I talk, sometimes there's thousands of people. I'm like, who read Think and Grow Rich? And everybody's like, oh my God, the badge of honor. They're so like, yes, I did. And then I'm like, okay, now put your hand up if you're rich. And like 1% of the hands go up. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad book. I'm just saying maybe you don't know how to process it, or maybe you're fighting against past experiences in your life. Otherwise, if the book was that brilliant, everybody or a big percentage of people that read it would rich. So I also learned that reading personal growth does not make personal change. It just doesn't. You need some kind of experience, some kind of shifting. Now you could have, I'm a big identity guy, Brian, you know that. I'm not a big alter ego guy. I'm not a big believer, put a mask on, get home, take a mask off. I'm not a believer in that. I'm believing in build an identity that you choose to live in so much that becomes you, and without having forced identity. Forced identity, if you guys want to know what that is, forced identity is one day you wake up and you have no legs. That's forced identity. You get in an accident. I lost my dad in November. That's a forced identity. It makes you think different about life, right? Brian, you went through some battles. Like that's a forced identity. You immediately say, this is what I'll do the rest of my life, and this is what I'll no longer tolerate. That's what personal growth is. It is a sequence of things that never stops, and you're constantly trying your best to remove shame, guilt, and trauma.
Thanks for listening to the Timeless Marketing Podcast with Brian Kurtz. Visit briankurtz.net and click podcast at the top of the page for a full transcript and show notes. If you're interested in working with Brian personally inside of Titans Accelerator, go to briankurtz.net/help to see how Titans can help you grow and scale your business. That's briankurtz.net/help.